Hey everyone, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. My previous video I talked about why it's important to have a bug-out bag, and it's not only for people that live in places where there's often natural disasters. It's basically for everyone, because you just never know when something goes wrong that it's forcing you out of your home, even if it's something as common as a house fire. Guys, these wooden frame houses, they burn within seconds. Within seconds, actually, you have to leave and consider yourself lucky if you make it out of there alive. So there's always something that could go wrong, and that's just one example. Recently in Oklahoma, there was the tornado that completely destroyed some houses. The warning was just 15 minutes, very little time. You basically have almost no time to make it to safety, so it's important to have something that you can just grab and go. At the same time, I also said that you want to have your important papers, your passports, birth certificates, insurance papers, also your emergency cash that you keep at home. You want to have that all in a small bag in case you just don't have enough time, and just grab that bag and leave. Why not keep it in your bug-out bag as well? Well, basically because these are important documents, papers, and also you have cash in there, and you really don't want to be losing that or having it that easily stolen in case of a home invasion, a burglary, someone breaking into your house when you're not there or something like that. It's actually better to keep it in a safe place, in an actual safe. It was actually this weekend, I don't know if you guys follow boxing, Lucas Matisse fought this weekend with Lamont Peterson. Great fight, by the way. Lucas won in round 3. Great fight if you managed to see it. Lucas Matisse, he's from Argentina. He was traveling for a fight. What happened? Typical Argentine stuff. The day before traveling or something like that, or just a few days before, someone broke into his house, stole some stuff, and stole or destroyed his passport, something like that. So unless you're working for Golden Boy Promotions, chances are you won't get your passport back in a couple of days, let alone a visa for traveling to US in just a matter of hours. So you have to keep these safe. You have to keep your papers, your documents in a safe place. That's why you want a smaller bag. This is actually ours, a smaller bag. Something like this would work. This is from Caterpillar. This is ours. Our small traveling bag with our important documents and some cash and such. Guys, I know you always want to know the brand and such. This is Caterpillar. I have no idea what says strive to survive, but nothing else besides that. I don't know if I can show. Well, as I was saying before, important documents, the kind of thing that you want to have in this little bag. Besides that, besides being something that you keep in a safe for obvious reasons, there's also the matter if time is very limited. You only have just a couple of seconds, maybe a couple of minutes to leave the house. You hurry, open your safe, get this out, manage to grab the bag-out bag or not. If you are... And folks, we have to always think of it in what would be like the worst possible case scenario. Well, the worst possible case scenario is that you just cannot grab anything, you just have to get out of there, lose everything, right? That would be the worst case scenario. What about maybe if you're injured, if you're wounded, if you're physically compromised in some other way, and you cannot grab a bigger bag, which would be, for example, a backpack of a bug-out bag. Maybe you're carrying a child or a wounded family member, and you only have one hand available, and you cannot go along with more weights. Those are the kind of things we think about. The worst possible case scenario, and working our way through that. Let's suppose that you didn't manage to get anything out of that house, right? Tsunami, as in Japan, as in Chile, wipes out everything completely. There's nothing left. You didn't manage to get anything out of your house. If you have a safe that is embedded in a floor slab, and you keep this little bag in that floor slab, then there's a good chance of you going back and finding it actually. Yes, again, it always depends on the location. The specific location will dictate many of the decisions you make. If you're living in the coast and there's a possibility of a flood or a tsunami wiping everything out, you will not only want to have that in a safe, you will also want to have it in in a waterproof container of some sort, something that's dependable, and you know it's going to be protected from water as well as a fireproof a container or safe in case there's a fire. So these are all the little things that we have to think about. And I'm doing these videos, the one from the bug out bag video and the document bag video, because I think there's a little bit of a confusion sometimes with all the possible 1,000 million possible kits that people talk about. It's not only just bug out bags. People say, well, it's bug out bag, it's get home bag, it's inch bag, which is I'm never coming home bag. And experts will say, well, if it's a bug out bag scenario, that's what I take if it's only 3 or 4 days. If I'm going to be leaving and never coming back, it's I'm never coming home bag, which is like a super version of a backpacking setup, which is, tent, sleeping bags. People sometimes tend to, I don't know if it's overthink or fantasize of things that they would do, and if I'm never coming home, I will have this tent, I will take an axe because I'm going to be living off the nature and building a cabin with my axe. And it gets to a point, it gets kind of ridiculous. When I left for good, knowing I was probably never going to be coming back home, when I left Argentina some time ago, over a year ago now, almost 2, I closed the door, and I remember thinking I have everything that I need in my pockets. In my I'm never coming home setup was in my pockets. What was that? Was my passports, my passport and my kids, my wife passports, my plane tickets, the cash and the credit cards, and of course the information which we need in our other documents was here. But in my pockets I kept passports, plane tickets. That's what I need to get to the airport. That's what I need to get on that plane and leave for good. Anything else, it's replaceable. It's I can get around it or find a way about it. But that's what I need so as to leave this place right now. So much for the inch bag or whatnot. People that got caught with a tornado in Oklahoma, some of those guys left and came back, evacuated because of obvious reasons, and came back and they still had a house or they had a certain amount of damage. Some folks left and they didn't have anything else. Some folks left, came back to just find completely destroyed, and where their house used to stand, they just found splinters and debris. That was it. If they had a shelter, that the shelter was the only thing that stood. As I was saying before, a safe, maybe something embedded in the floor would be a good idea to preserve some of those documents if you don't manage to get those out along with you. But that's it. Sometimes, folks, you just don't know if you're never coming back. And it all depends. I knew when I was leaving because it was different circumstances. I had been planning it for a while. Then I had to step up a little bit on leaving because we were leaving more in a hurry. Actually, I was just talking to a good friend of mine, Captain Rick, who also an American expat that was living in Argentina, and he left maybe with a little bit more time, but he just managed to leave when things were getting worse over there. He was telling me that a lot of people, even people that had been living there for over 20 years, were leaving, thinking of leaving, and some were kind of getting caught already because they don't find a way of getting their money out of the country. They don't manage to sell their property and leave, and it gets more and more complicated. So it all depends. Situations vary a lot. There's not black and white scenarios. It's not always that way. It's always like a gray in between thing. The folks that left during the tornado in Oklahoma, some of them had a home to go back to. Some of them left nothing at all when they came back. Completely lost everything. And I could think of 100 different scenarios where you leave because of something that forces you out, and you just never know for sure if you're coming back or not. So yeah, that's basically my take on it. It's really not that complicated. Of course, if you work maybe from a distance from home, and there's a possibility of you having to walk back home and such, you will have a kit in your work, in your office, so as to help you get back home. Stuff that you keep in your car, your emergency kit in your vehicle as well. Sure, something that I have to cover in other videos and such. But it's really not that complicated. It's quite simple. At least have a bug-out bag in your house. Have one of these. I suppose every normal person has their documents, their passports, and some money in a bag in their house, in a safe somewhere. Folks, that's all for now. Remember to subscribe. Take care. Have a great day. See you in our next video.